Sometimes in the AHB world, you don't find yourself in the best positions. Sometimes you do make mistakes. But the good thing about it is you can recover from those mistakes. God forbid, for me anyways, that I find myself in a situation where I am either side-mounted or top-mounted, or I'm not in a position where I'm in an advantage, where I feel I'm at a disadvantage. And obviously for everyone who's played around in a dojo or has been in an AHB fight, you know what positions I'm talking about. When you're side-mounted or when you're in a full mount. That means I am being side-mounted or I am being mounted. It's not a comfortable place to be, but it's not a hopeless place to be. From those positions, you have to stay first calm and understand that you do have options and you do have escapes from those. And second is you have to definitely protect yourself in those positions. You can't take abuse in there and expect to get out of those positions. One of the first things that I'm going to go over is show you what happens just however you end up in this position. If you do end up in it, that you do have a possibility for escape. But like I said, you have to maintain a level of confidence that you can get out of these positions. I'm going to give you a couple techniques that you can work with that'll help you, and hopefully through your practice you'll end up getting out of either the top mount or side mount position with these techniques. First off, if you do find yourself that you do get side mounted and a guy is side mounted you, a couple things that you have to remember is that I have to draw myself as close to his body as possible. So the space that I was talking about in my previous examples doesn't apply here. What I need to do, I need to draw him as close to me as I possibly can. And that means that I have to get my hips as close to his hips as possible. He's going to try, if he's side mounted here, he's going to try to keep his legs as far away as he possibly can. Now it's not going to be easy, but one thing I have to definitely keep in mind is that I have to protect myself. From this position, if he's mounted on top of me here, I have to protect myself. I have to draw myself tight and close to him. My whole objective here is just to bide time. It's to bide time in order for me to get the opportunity to escape. And one thing that I have to do here is I have to get my hips close to his hips. And one way that I do that is I want to turn down to one hip and I want to crawl my feet and start walking with them to try to catch up with his legs. And in the same time, I want to latch on to him and I want to hold him tight. I want to try to hold his upper body close to mine, and I want to create that as being the center, and I want to walk my legs around the center. I'm going to run my legs around to the center like this. I have to be able to do this. Because what I need to do is I need to be able to catch this leg here. That's my whole objective, is to catch this far leg. And by catching that far leg, I'll be able to pull my hips tight to his. Even if he's latched onto me, squeezing tight, one thing about getting choked is that if I'm getting choked, I have to relax. Even if he's smothering me or doing whatever, I have to be able to take whatever breath I can, and I have to be able to relax. It's a hard concept under these circumstances to be able to do that, but the more I'm able to relax, the better I'm going to be. I can't hit the panic button. From this position here, I'm locked onto him, pulling him tight, and my objective is to capture this leg here. I'm going to take my hips and I'm going to throw them over, and I need to catch this leg. And by catching this leg, I'm going to draw him nice and tight to me now. When I draw him nice and tight to me, now I can use a little post with my head here, put my head down on the ground, and I can pop my hips in, and when I pop my hips in, I can roll him over. So he's here, I got him tight, I pop my hips in, and I can roll him over. But I can't do any of that unless I catch that leg. It might not be the first attempt or the second attempt. I might have to maneuver here. Finally, I catch his leg. When I catch his leg, I'm going to pull it tight, and I'm going to hold it. I want to hold his leg. I can even pinch it if I get it here. And if I get his leg here, I lock onto him. And when I lock onto him, even if he released any post on me, and he releases his hand and stops me from rolling, now I start scooting, I can slide back out. Like I was saying, in these particular positions, in a side mount position for him, or in a top mount position for him, your primary objective is to protect yourself. You got to pull yourself close and tight to him
so you can stop him from effectively administering any kind of blows to you. The second thing that you have to keep in mind is you have to take your hips and you have to get your hips as close to his as possible. It's really important that you do that. You don't want space here as much, because what you're going to utilize is you're going to utilize a roll technique, and with that technique you need to keep him as tight as possible. So what you have to be able to do is take your hips. You have to be able to do this with your hips. They have to be able to be this clean and free. Even if he's locked on you tight here, if he's smothering you or choking you, you have to maintain a level of relaxation in here to be able to get your breaths when you can get them. If he's smothering you or not, you can't hit the panic button. All you have to do is relax, because you're going to get a chance to get out of this. All you have to do is maintain a level of confidence when you're in here that, okay, made a mistake, now we correct it. And the way that you correct it is you lock onto him tight here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw my legs as hard as I can from one side to the other, and I want to capture this leg. And I have to throw it hard in order to be able to do it. I might have to run my feet around, but my whole objective is to capture this leg. And I want to run around and capture this leg. And see, when I get to this point, I know that I'm almost there. I want to hook that leg. If he's a good top guy, it's going to be a difficult task, because you might have to hold him here, you might have to run and scoot here, and then finally you're going to reach over and you're going to be able to capture that leg. And when you capture that leg, what you need to do is you need to pull his body as tight to you as you can. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to arch up with my head and pop him and roll him across my body here. When I do that, automatically I'm going to adjust my position. Automatically. Like I was showing you on the different tapes, is that from this position, if you remember, the familiarness of this position is I have him between my legs now. And as I showed you before, if he just rolls right back here, I just hook that leg. When I hook that leg, realistically, now I got his back. I can hook the other leg in here, and I can continue to roll through. So I just went from a position where he was in total advantage, from a side mount, to where now I got a rear mount on him. Now you have to remember that it might not happen easy. It might not happen with the first try. I might struggle with it for a little bit, but the idea is that if I'm able to practice it, I'm going to be able to utilize these techniques to be able to improve my positions if I do make a mistake. So we'll go back from square one. I made a mistake. He's in the side mount. I got to be able to chase his legs around and capture his legs. And that's by closing the distance with my hips. I want my hips to be on his hips. And when my hips are on his hips, it's going to allow me to capture that leg. See this foot? I just hook it over here and capture that leg. Even from this position, man, I still have to protect myself from taking a shot. I still have to protect myself. But the whole idea is that when I'm here, I got a great opportunity to lock onto him. However I do it, lock onto him, grab his face here. Now I just pop him, pull him. Here I am. I'm in a really good position now. I'm in a better position when I start to adjust myself from this particular situation. All I do is post myself up, protect myself here. I'm still in control of him. If he goes face down on me, I got his back. Here, I follow him up. If he doesn't, I improve my position here. He can roll all the way through, and I'm out, and we're starting from scratch again. But I took a bad position, and I turned it into a better position. And that comes with me being in a position that maybe I don't think that is that advantageous for me. Obviously, side mount isn't. And I don't panic. I keep my confidence. I keep my control. And I turn it into a position that I can utilize for an offensive position, or I can get out to a neutral position. Like I said, the important thing is, though, is I stay confident, I stay in control, I stay relaxed, and I utilize good technique and patience to be able to get out of a bad position. sometimes, worst case scenario, you could find yourself in a full mount position. Even sometimes, even though that I consider myself to be a good technician, I could make a mistake and I could end up with a guy in a full mount. Like I said, from the side mount position, is that there's a couple things that have to happen. One is I have to keep my composure. I have to know that, you know what, this is not the end all. The second thing is I have to protect myself. I have to keep myself from taking any kind of blows or strikes that would give him an advantage and give me a disadvantage by either cutting me or opening me up for submission from the top position here. I know that, you know, I'm in a bad position. I know that I have to improve this position. There's a couple things that you can do. One is to keep away from the strikes, is when a guy's in a top position, you can obviously pull him close and tight to you. But that's not good enough. What I need to do is I need to improve my position. And improving my position, I need to get on top of him. Or I need to get out from underneath this position. The Brazilians call this the mount. I call it, actually, it's an opportunity. Most people don't look at it like that, but if I do end up in this position, I have an opportunity to improve my position. I have to stay composed, relaxed, no matter what is happening here. If he's choking me, smothering me, I need to stay relaxed. He can choke me, and he has to get something really tight in order for me to really even have an idea that I want to give up in here. I have to keep my head together. One thing that I like to do from this position is definitely I do a trap down. And what I mean by that is that if he's striking me, I deflect and I trap down his arm. And from this position here, as I come up here and I lock and I trap. And from this position, it gives me a great opportunity to be able to arch and pop and roll. And you'll see what I mean by that. If he's striking here and I'm protecting against him here, I push away. And when I push away, I pull down with my other hand and I trap him. And when I do this, it's not going to end the fight. I'm not going to be able to submit him from here, but I want to improve my position. The way I improve my position, I dig in with my feet, I want to pop him up, and I want to arch on my head. At the same time, I want to take him over. And when I do it, it happens in a matter of seconds. It's not a slow motion. And repeatedly, what I've told you is that when you're doing these, you do them with explosion, you do them with power, and you do them with confidence. And you gain all that from your ability to get in the practice room and train and train and train. It's not going to happen easily. I might be in that mount position. I might take a couple strikes. I might take a couple, shots that I don't want to take. But you know what? I'm still thinking, I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to improve my position. I show it to you again. If I end up, and he ends up in a mount position, however he got here, I definitely, if I have to protect myself from at the beginning of this and pull him close and tight to me, that's what I have to do. My objective here is to deflect just one of his punches, just deflect it. Or I can try to control one of his arms here and force him down. I want to grab his head, pull him down here, and I want to force that arm down. I want to lock it. Now, even if he wanted to, he couldn't keep me down on the mat right now. He cannot stay on top of me. He can fight with me, but the second that I lock my hands here and I pop up and I arch, it doesn't matter if he tries stretching me out or not, I'm going to be able to roll him. He can lock full grapevine if he wants. Here, and I can still pop and roll him. He loses his point of balance. Now, you know what? I'm into my guard, his guard, and then I go through all the series of escapes that I went through in the guard position. I improved my position. I didn't panic. I stayed relaxed, I knew that I could improve my position, and I went ahead and did it. And that's the mentality that you have to understand. No matter what position you find yourself in, if it's not an advantageous position for you, you got to look at it as an opportunity to get into an advantageous position. One thing you have to understand is that maybe I didn't make it as clear as I should have, is that in this position, your leverage is your ability to be able to pop your hips and utilize your hips. They're the strongest part of your body. And use your head as a post. And when you do that, you take him to the side that he has no balance to. If I wanted to take him to that side, all he had to do is take this arm. All he had to do is take this arm and post that arm there, and I can't buck him off. If I don't control any part of him and his arms are flat out like this, here, I can't get off. There's no way I'm going to be able to get away from him. No way in the world. The second, though, that I trap, even if I use an outside trap instead of an inside trap, even if I trapped him here, I'm still going to utilize the same principles as I utilized when I trap his arm on an inside trap here. I'm still going to utilize the same principles. And those principles are, is when I do this, is I trap here, I'm lifting and I'm rotating. Watch my feet here. I'm high-legging over. I'm popping him up and I'm high-legging over. I'm turning my hips. I want my hips to be parallel to the ground. Right here. You can do this drill all day long. Trap his arm, rotate. But watch what happens is I'm popping here. He can grapevine as hard as he wants. He can try and straighten me out. And all I have to do is just high leg over. When I'm high legging over, I'm arching on my head. That gives me a little pop. I'm popping. Rotating on my head, over. You have to do that drill. You can do it without a partner. You can get down here without your partner, and you can practice this. This is all I'm doing. Here, here. Over. Over and over again. That's the principle behind it. You don't have to panic. All you have to do is maintain your composure. Know that you can improve your position. And if you can improve your position, you're going to stand a good chance that you're going to be able to submit him either with a lock, a choke, or submit him through strikes. But you have to maintain your composure. That's the most important thing. Another technique that I'd like to utilize when I end up in a position that's not advantageous for me, I've showed you a couple ways to get out of positions from a side mount, from a full mount. Another technique that I like to use when a guy is top mounted me, I've made a mistake, guy's on top of me, I'm not panicking, I'm keeping my composure, I'm keeping the strikes down to a minimum. Now I say that because ideally, you would like to not take any strikes at all if the guy does top mount you. But sometimes you don't have that option. Sometimes you're gonna have to protect yourself, but sometimes you're gonna end up taking strikes. What I like to do is I like to pull the body close, and I showed you this before. I like to pull the body close for a couple different reasons. One is I showed you this escape from here, the headlock and rolling. I showed you the drill you can do. I showed you a side body lock from here and being able to reverse. Now also, what I would like to show you is if you have the idea that you cannot do a submission from here, you can. What I like to use is I like to use these key locks. You can utilize them to either side. And like I said, through this whole process, when I execute a technique, I have to do it with confidence, I have to do it with explosion, and I have to do it with commitment. And if I utilize those three components, I'm going to be successful more than I'm not. So from this particular technique, it's similar because when I pass this arm by here, I'm trapping and I roll through. What I like to do is I like to trap the head down. If a guy comes through here, I pull him down here, and I want to brace against here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide my hand up. When I slide my hand up, I want to slide it back and around to his neck. So what I have is I've taken him here, I've pulled him down, and I've slid my hand up here. And from here, I like to trap his head down. Now, of course, the guy is going to fight. But what I'm really after is I'm really after this arm here. And when I'm after this arm, what I'm going to do is this is just a diversion here. I can administer maybe a strike here, but that's not my primary objective. My primary objective is to lock this arm out. Now, a lot of times what happens is that you can sit up sometimes and you can get this. You can sit up and you can fight for this position here. But it's the same thing as I need to get up and I need to get my arm past him. It doesn't matter what side of his body I do it on. But it's an explosion. If we're in here, I can explode here and I can sit up really quick and push his head down. And when I push his head down, I'm really trying to get my elbow on the back of his neck. And when I do this, it exposes his whole arm. And then what I need to do is I need to do a key lock. I grab the wrist here and I grab over here. And when I got this key lock, it's not going to be so much that I can submit him right from this. But what it's going to do, it's going to enable me to improve my position. Now once again, I'll slide back for you so I can show you it to completion. If we're here, I'm protecting myself against strikes. What I need to do is I need to grab a hold of him and pull him down. I need to grab a hold of him and just like if I was in a full mount position, I want to control the inside of his arms here. It makes it a lot more difficult for him to administer effective strikes if I do that. And plus it enables me to control him because I can pull him down or I can push him away. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull him down, I'm going to slide this past, I'm going to trap his head down. If I can control his head here, I can control his motion. What also I like to do in the meantime until I can get this lock is I reach over and I grab his armpit here. Now Tom can struggle, it's kind of hard to stand up, to pull himself back up. I'm holding on to that, and then what I want to do is I want to force this hand down to his wrist. I want to release out of his armpit, come across and lock onto it. And when I lock onto it, just like the drill that I showed you before about arching up, I'm going to arch up and I'm going to pull this arm this way. Now if you look at how it's locked, I'm going to push this wrist out and I'm going to pull this arm up and it's going to lock his elbow and his shoulder. And I guarantee if he doesn't release, I'm going to end up doing some damage to his shoulder. And when he releases, he actually turns into a roll here. See how I'm arching up? It's hard to do slow for my partner. But I'm arching up here, and I just follow through to completion. I got to put him back on the mat, and I'll show you. Full mount position, I'm controlling inside here. Controlling inside. I slide up and around. When I slide up and around, I slide over and I get the lock. And then I have to start working with my feet. They become my power source. I've got a good tight lock onto my own wrist. I'm locked around, and I'm locked just like if I had any other key lock. And when I grab this, I'm forcing this arm, and he's got to move. If he doesn't move, I'm going to break it off. If he wants to lock on and grapevine me here, I can create a lot of pressure. See how I'm arching back? And when I arch back, eventually it's going to pop him through, and I'm going to keep that lock. And I roll right through. Now guess what? I'm in the same position I was, except reversed. I have a good key lock on him. Now it's hard to finish this hold. This key lock, you're not going to get the submission from between his legs because he can create pries and levers from here to stop you from finishing with the amount of pressure that you need for this particular hold. And then from here, I maintain good position, back, and then I can go over my escapes, push down, isolate, and start working from there to where I can gain control in a side mount position and finish this. I've showed you a couple techniques to escape from the mount. Got to remember, don't panic, stay in control. You're not in a dangerous position. If you protect yourself, keep in mind that you have to protect yourself. That's the first and foremost important thing. Second thing, stay patient. Patience in that position is going to pay. Remember, when you're in there and you decide you're going to go, make a commitment to it, explode through it, and you're going to end up in a better position. But you have to stay patient, stay calm, and you're going to be effective in there. Not always will you find yourself from a takedown position into a side mount or into a full mount. There are other factors that come into play. A lot of times when I'm out there and I'm competing, I definitely am looking to take advantage of a side mount or a full mount position right away. But I don't always arrive in that position from my leg attacks. A lot of times you end up in what is called a guard or a half guard. And from those positions, you can still create an offense, effective striking, and effective techniques for submission. But the most important thing for me is I like to function for my offense is in a side mount or in a full mount. So what I'm about to show you is some of the techniques I use to get out of the guard and get into a side mount position or get into a full mount position. So first off, for those of you who are pretty familiar with the guard, it's usually in this position here that you are forced into when you initiate your offense. When you initiate your offense from your feet and you initiate a leg attack, sometimes the defensive man ends up pulling you into a guard position. Not always is this the best position for you to be in. And when I say that, is that it seems pretty comfortable. It seems like you're able to do quite a few things. But depending on who you're competing against, it's depending on where you want to be. Now, if his background is jiu-jitsu, this is definitely not the place to be. I call it the lion's mouth. You don't want to be in the lion's mouth. It gives him an opportunity, if he's a jiu-jitsu guy, to be able to execute his offensive holds, his submission holds from this position. He has all the opportunities for arm bars, triangles, and a variety of other submissions. So I want to get out of this. One of the primary things that I have to understand is position. What he is trying to do to me when I am in his guard. One thing that jiu-jitsu guys try to do is they try to create space. When they create space, they're either going to block you here, take their legs, and they're going to push you here to create the space, still controlling your arms. Now they can control the distance which they let you in and out. And that enables them to attack you and push you away to stop your counterattack. They'll retract their knees in and let you come in to attack, to strike, and then push you back out where you can't strike back. What you really have to understand is that you have to protect yourself in this position. Normally, if I attack offensively and I end up in the guard, immediately from this position, I want to be able to control my base and I want to be able to control his hands. That's immediately. Those are the primary things that I've concentrated on because I do not want to get swept from one. I don't want to have a narrow base, and I don't want to have him control my arms and trap my arms. Immediately, right away, what happens is you end up losing position, and that is not good. Because when you start losing position, you're going to end up losing the fight. Immediately, I control him, and the way that I do this is I want to control his hips. Like I said, from some of the top mount positions that I showed you and some of the rear mount positions that I showed you, the most important thing is to control the hips. And I'll keep reiterating this over and over again, is that hip control is the basis for everything. Hip and head control. And if I'm able to do that from the ground, control his hips here, I'm able to control what he does. Depending on if you're fighting in a ring or in a cage or on the streets, you have to look at your surroundings and you can utilize your surroundings to your advantage. Usually I like to take and push my opponent to a position where I'm going to be in an advantage. It's a third man. Say the fence, the rope, or a curb or a wall would be the third man. That helps me control whether or not he can slide and move. But for us right now, for our purposes, we're just going to say there is no third man. How do I go ahead and how do I get out of the guard? It's not an easy task, but with some good technique, you're able to do it. The first thing I like to do, like I said, is position myself where I control his hips. Then I want to protect myself from his strikes. I don't want to extend my hands and get him away from my body. That's definitely a no-no. What I like to do is I like to keep my elbows here, and I like to just reach out here and reach out here and trap his arms. And for me, I usually keep my head buried down. And the only time I'm going to pop my head up is when I start to break the guard. So I like to keep my position right down here. Now it stops him from striking me, and it definitely can keep me from getting in bad position. I don't want to get extended in a way. When I get extended in a way, I set myself up to get arm barred or triangled, and I don't want to play that game if this is a jiu-jitsu guy. If he's a stand-up fighter, it changes the game. But for right now, we are, for our purposes, saying he's a jiu-jitsu guy. Okay? So from this position here, I'm in tight with my elbows. I am tight here with my hips. I'm controlling whether he slides or not, and I'm controlling his arms. Now, if he starts sliding around, I just want to improve my position here. I want to stay nice and tight with him, effectively keeping him from striking me. I don't want him to be able to push me down to his belly. I don't want him to have any of my part of my head on his belly. It's just not a good position for me to be in. And you'll understand this if you study jiu-jitsu, what I'm talking about. If not, the concept for him is he needs to push me down to his belly. He needs to extend my arms out, and then enables him to swivel his hips so he can trap an arm for a lock, or he can get a triangle, or he can get in a definite better position for him. So I want to control this position. I want to be right here. There's a little cut for my head. That's about where I want to be. And I want to control his arms. And I keep reiterating this because it's a really important point right off the bat. So if I'm standing up, and we start from a stand-up position here, and I come down, and I take him down, and he pulls me straight into the guard, immediately from this position, I want to start adjusting myself, and I want to come here, and I want to start hand fight. I'm going to control his hands right off the bat. And in turn, I'm controlling his hips. For me, what I like to do when I start breaking the guard, and this is what helps a lot, is that you have to understand what leg is crossed. If he's crossed top leg over whatever side it is, you figure that out. Now I said the only time that I pop up is when I'm going to break his guard. One thing that helps break his guard is I create space. Good way that I create space, go ahead and relax, is that I take my knee and I set my knee right underneath his butt. It helps create leverage. Now, if you're working with traditional kimono with a belt on, it makes it a lot easier. But not always do you have that luxury. So if he's locked around me here, I want to push down on him from here, push down on him, and I want to stuff my knee underneath his butt. See, I lift up his body. That makes it a little harder for him to hold me. Makes it a lot harder. It doesn't matter what side I do it. I push him down on the ground, pick up with my hips, and I stuff my leg underneath his butt. Right there. I'm still staying balanced. Now it makes it a little harder for him to be able to hold that guard position. My leg is right underneath between the cheeks of his butt. Now from this position here, I want to start working inside. Now if he had a traditional kimono and a belt on, it'd be a lot easier. If he doesn't, I have to work with what I have. I want to put pressure right here on the inside of his legs. Pressure right here on the inside of his legs. Like I said, what happens from this is it happens quickly. Is from this position here, I pop up. If he keeps that lock tight, when I pop him up, he's going to create a little bit of space underneath him. When he creates a little bit of space underneath him, I stuff my leg underneath him. It gets him raised up, and it creates a better leverage for me to be able to break his hold. I want to pry down here. It spreads him out. What I like to do is I like to isolate one side or the other. I'm going to isolate. And it doesn't matter if a jiu-jitsu guy comes up and he blocks me here or not, because there's a couple holds that I'll show you out of here that are pretty effective submissions. But for right now, we're just pretending that you blocked here, you blocked here. What I like to do from here is I do a shin slide. And it's not a nice thing to do, so you got to be careful with your training partner. So I take my shin, slide it across his shin, and I trap that leg down. Slide it across, and I sit. Now you have to understand, it is pretty painful, so you got to be careful with your training partner. This ankle bone right here is where I want to slide across and I want to meet it with my ankle bone right there. I literally shin him right there. And if I sit back on that, it's pretty painful. Don't want to hurt my training partner, so I have to do it kind of lightly. I slide across shin to shin, and you'll understand the first time that you try this exactly what I'm talking about. I want to slide my shin bone right on the inside. It's sensitive on the inside of his shin, with the front part of mine, which is less sensitive. And I want to grind it. Now you come from this position here, you isolate, you push down, and you come right to shin, sliding. Now I've isolated this leg. It's a lot easier for me to work against one leg than it is for me to try to challenge both of his. I'm still controlling this here. He can sit up, he can do what he wants, I'm still protecting myself. Now a lot of jiu-jitsu guys will start to slide, start to move, that's perfectly fine. I've trapped the leg down. That's all I wanted to do is trap a leg. When I trap that leg, the next thing I do is I come with a knee that was underneath his butt, I come over the top. And when I come over the top, now this is the most crucial part, is I have to stay nice and tight because I cannot create space. He wants me as a jiu-jitsu guy, he wants space. If I slide far enough away, he just slides back and into the guard. What I need to do is when I trap that leg down and I'm on that leg, I need to slide as tight as I can with the other leg. So I come from underneath his butt, I slide down this crevice of his leg right here. And when I do that, I'm going to drop my hip down and I'm going to pull my foot through. Right to here. Now I'm back to positions that you've seen earlier in some of the tapes. I can work from these positions here into some of the submissions that I've showed you earlier. You can work, but the thing that keeps in mind here, as I showed you before, is this is the wedge that you have to keep tight. And my other side keeps tight here too. I can control if he's punching or if he's doing anything, I can block these. The idea is I use this foot and I use this as just a slide. I'm not pushing with this foot. I'm keeping it away from him and I'm keeping this tight. But the whole process comes from me starting from the guard, popping him up in the air, then I start to work him down. When I start to work him down, I isolate one leg. When I isolate that one leg, I roll over and I trap. And I want to grind on that. And when I grind on that, the next thing I do is I slide close and tight, right here. Close and tight, and I slide through. And when I slide into that position, immediately, I get it nice and tight. Immediately. I do not want to allow him to have any space, especially if he's a jiu-jitsu guy. I have a little bit more of a leeway when it comes to other stand-up fighters because they're not as polished with their ground skills. But for me, I pretend everyone's great at ground skills. I don't take anyone for granted. I don't care what kind of background he has. I'm going to act like he is the best in the world at ground skills. Therefore, I'm going to execute my technique as best as I can technically. I'm sliding tight, and from this position, depending on what he's doing, depending on what he gives me, is depending on what submission hold I use. If he gives me his head, I come up to here, I show you the lock that I showed you before. If he gives me his arm, and he traps over, I can use my key locks. I can use my arm bars. If he turns away from me, I can use a lot of different techniques. But a little drill that I do here is I keep tight and I just keep moving on him. I keep my body pressed tight on him. I come around to his head here. I come around to the other side. I'm staying tight. I want to be able to move on him. And one reason why I said earlier that I like the side mount so much is from a striking perspective, it gives me 2 more elements to strike than from being in the guard. It gives me 2 more knees, and it allows me to strike a lot easier and more freely with my elbows. But if I can't do that, then I go into my submission. And primarily, when I use a strike from this position here, it's to get him to open up. It's to get him to move, to change positions so I can work for a submission. And that's one thing that I reiterated earlier, and I said to you, is that it's important, it's really important that you understand that when I strike and I hit, it's not always to end the fight. is to get him to change position or to open up. My primary objective is to get him to quit through submission. But if I can't do that, obviously I'm going to get him to quit through strikes. Like I was saying, what you have to keep in mind when you're doing this, when you're breaking the guard, is that you definitely have to be able to pop under here, create the leverage. Now, this is a really soft spot in the body. You have to understand that when I dig in here with my elbows, I'm not doing it nicely. You'll find the soft spot. You'll find where you can push on him, and it's going to break it. Now, you might have to struggle. He might have a really good guard, and he's locked on tight, and I guarantee if you keep pushing and you keep pushing in here, he's going to end up breaking his lock. And that's what I want. I just want the chance to be able to isolate a leg down. It's really soft and sensitive in here, and with my sharp elbows, I dig in there. These are the little things that you don't always think about, but they're the things that are going to be able to help you in effectively getting out of his guard. And like I said, it's not going to be an easy thing. If he's a good jiu-jitsu guy, it's going to be a fight. You know, but the more often you practice this and the more often you practice it, the better you become at it and the easier it becomes, or it seems to be, because your technique is improving. So when he's locked onto me here, remember what I do is I pop a knee under and I use that knee to leverage right here. I use that to leverage, and it separates, it gets him away from me. I start working in here. When I'm working in there, this sucks for him. This sucks. Trap and isolate. I trap down. Even if I have to start on the knee and trap down, I got to be careful of strikes, but I'm keeping him away from me. I come down on that ankle bone. When I come down on the ankle bone, I can rock back and forth on it. Usually from this position, a guy will come and you'll try to block. You can still keep away. Next thing I do, come through, slide tight here, trapping, slide tight down. Now remember what I said is I use my arm across here to block his hip, and I use this whole section here to close this space. And then from this position on top, I can work any of the various submissions that I showed you earlier. I can stop, go chest to chest, rotate, come over the top, come up here, use this, arm bar him back this way, arm bar him here, key lock him, use a variety of things. But you have to be able to effectively move on top. And that freedom of motion on top will help you in keeping control of him. I'm not just laying on top of him, I'm trying to get the fight over with. And that's really important when you're in a top position, is your mobility. My ability to keep balance, stay tight, keep moving with him. He's rocking back and forth. I'm keeping tight. I want this position. I'll fight for this position because I just spent a whole bunch of energy getting out of it. I want to be able to effectively stay in a side mount position because I want to be able to knee him. I want to be able to elbow strike him. I want to be able to punch him. And those are all effective things for my final thing, which is I want to be able to submit him. Another position that I get into from the guard, sometimes if a guy's not fighting me from a closed guard, he's not fighting me from a closed guard, he's fighting me from an open guard. And what I mean by an open guard is his legs are not crossed. Sometimes here, they use these here, or these here, and what they use them for is they use them for blocks. They use them for additional blocks. They use them so you cannot punch. They use their legs here and their hands to protect, so that you can't get to them through punching. And when people utilize techniques like that in open guard, they're baiting you for a couple different things. They'll get you frustrated enough where you end up looping a punch, and when you loop a punch, they'll lay a leg out, they'll catch your arm here, and bang, you're into a triangle position. Okay? So you have to be aware of sometimes what his strategy is on the bottom to effectively use your strategy from the top. When a guy fights me from an open guard, one thing that I like to do is I like to trap again and isolate one leg. This is one of my favorite ways to beat someone from an open guard position. What I like to do from here is I like to protect myself. I know that it's an open guard. I know that he's using his knees to keep me away from him and to block my punches. So what I like to do is trap one leg. What I do here is I take one big step back. Now it happens relatively quick. I take one big step back. And when I take that big step back, I'm going to trap that leg. And what I mean by trapping that leg is I take one big step back and I trap that leg right here. Sometimes when a guy fights me from the open guard position, like I was saying, is I like to isolate and trap. When I isolate and trap, one way that I do is I do a mule kick. I push here and I still keep him tight, still keep him protected. I do a mule kick back. And when I do a mule kick back, when I come back in, I trap his leg. Now if we slide a little bit here, you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm in between his legs here. He's fighting me open guard. He can even be hooked inside here however he wants. And I just slide back. When I slide back, I come in and I trap. And when I come in and trap, I'm still keeping pressure on that leg. And then in order to fully get around it, is I come and I kick the other leg back and I trap too. Now I'm outside from between his legs. And from this position here, there's a couple different ways that I can get around. Now, the more patient I am from this position, the better it is for me. I don't want to hastily just try to run around him from here, because a good jiu-jitsu guy will be able to slide, maneuver his hips to be able to pull you back in the guard. One little technique that I like to do once I trap that leg is I take my outside hand and I reach underneath him and I grab his foot. I grab his foot like this. Now I'm really in control. When I grab his foot like this, I can block his knee here and I can do the same type of slide that I showed you earlier. Except this time when I push down here, I push and pull it here and slide across. All the while as I'm staying as tight as I can, as absolute tight as I can. I want to slide and work my way up, and now I'm in a side mount position. And from this side mount position, I can utilize a lot of the techniques that I've shown earlier. But you got to remember is that for him, a jiu-jitsu guy, he's going to try everything in his power to pull you back into a guard, a half guard, or he's going to do and try to escape from you or get away from you. Most important thing you have to do is you have to keep the space nice and tight. Now again, from this position, you take one big step back. When you take that step back, you're coming back and trapping that leg. Now you're going to have to work with it because everyone's guard is a little bit different. So I would have to feel out during this fight or during this practice, I'd have to feel how he fights open guard. And from that open guard position, I'm here, I'm working, I take that big step back. When I take that big step back, I come in and trap. Remember, I'm still protecting my head. I'm still not reaching way up to give an opportunity to arm bar me. I'm keeping tight. I come back here, I trap. Then if I want, I reach right across from here and I grab his foot. When I grab his foot, I push here. When I push here, you notice what I do is slide right across. When I slide right across, I come back in, cover position. Keeping tight the whole time. I don't want to create any space. If I give him any space whatsoever, he's just going to slide back in. He's going to slide back in to the guard position. Any space whatsoever. Usually if a guy gets on top here, and he has any space whatsoever from this position, if he gives me any space, this guy's going to push him around, and he's going to try and create that space and pull him back into the guard. Therefore, you want to maintain as tight a position as possible. You want to keep as tight as possible. You don't want to give him any opportunity to pull you back in the guard because it does take a lot of energy and effort to get out of it. So once again, from the guard position here, open guard position, You want to take that big step back, trap his leg down, take another step back, fully trap it, reaching in with your hand. If you can't get it with his hand, a lot of times what happens is you block this down here, block it down, and you slide across. But remember, there's a lot of space there. So immediately I have to work on covering that space. Really important, really effective. These are a couple of techniques that I utilize from the guard position. I can tell you that there is no guard that's inescapable. You can take the fundamentals that I've taught you here and you can escape any guard that you're in. The one thing you have to remember is you have to be patient. You're not going to be able to get out for the first try or the second try on some people, but you got to understand that if you stay patient, use the fundamentals, that you can escape from the guard. I'm about to show you some of the more advanced takedowns, some different situations that come up, and some techniques that you'll be able to utilize if a guy is not just standing there in front of you. Important thing to remember, like I've said on my previous tape in the fundamentals, is that you always have to capture a leg. Doesn't matter how you do it, it matters how you're going to finish it. So right now we're going to go over some of the other holds that you can utilize in being able to take an opponent who's not just standing in front of you, who's moving around, who's creating motion, who's creating different scenarios where you have to use different takedowns besides a double or a single. Right now I'm going to show you one that I utilize, and it's called a fake step. And with a fake step is literally, to make it happen, is I'm taking a fake step across his body. I'm coming into his striking range, into his kicking range and his punching range. But I'm only going to stay there for a second before I close the gap. What happens is I'm taking a step across his body, and when I take that step across his body, my next step is into his body. So if I'm outside of his distance and I'm here, I take a step across his body, and then I take a step into his body. And watch my foot, watch my feet, okay? Goes here, and then in. And at the same time, I'm lowering my level. So at fast speed, it's here, and it's in. And I close that distance down. Now it happens, we can be moving around here, and I'm going to create a fake here. That fake is across his body. It gets him to react. Here. And when he reacts, I step past his leg, capturing his leg with my inside hand. So fake, stepping in, and when I step in, I want to rotate my body down. And when I do this, from this position here, I'm fighting my way up. Do not want to be caught down here. Up to either this, where I'm attacking one leg, or up to his body. So we'll watch it again. Here, step across his body here. Gets him to move. I take a big step in, capturing this leg here. Now watch what happens with my hips. When I capture here, I'm rotating down, and I'm throwing my hips down. Remember what I said on my earlier tape? I'm at 90 degrees. Straight back, fitting into the groove. And here, I can feed up and lock this leg, or I can feed up to a body lock. Right to here. I'm in control of him. So what happens when I step across, step in, and I'm attacking that leg. So I step across in here. Drive down. In control. Always in control. Now if you look at the relation, most of the finishing holds that I have are a double leg. They're not a double leg shot. They're a double leg finish. Even though I stepped across, I stepped in, and I attacked one leg, when I made a transition, I'm into my double leg finish now. It's all related. Now if he reacted in any of the ways he reacted for the first tape, locking here, catching me here, or taking his sprawl and his legs away, I know all those finishes now. It's just a different way to be able to set him up, to be able to finish your holds is the same way as in the fundamentals. Like I said, one of the best things you can do to your opponent here in these situations where you don't have a straight double or a single leg is to be able to utilize other techniques. I just showed you stepping across and then coming down and rotating down here and attacking his one leg. Right under here. And the same thing applies is if he throws a punch, it's the same thing. If I'm stepping here, I'm still able to turn and duck underneath him.